All right, so we're gonna hit a 29% verse warrior with a 1 stack Blessing of Dawn. We have 1 trinket proc. 2 stacks actually. 1.6 million. Wow. All right, so we're on retail now. We're just gonna get the same scenario here. I just need my trinket to proc. There we go. Okay, goodbye. $2 million. 2 million. Non-crit. Same variables here. Proc trinket, 2 Blessing of Dawn stacks, 2 million non-crit. Versus on the PTR, 11.1, we're doing about 400k less with the same procs. This ability right here of Dusk and Dawn is not working. What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with a video on the 11.1 PTR. I'm here to talk about a couple of changes that happened the other week, along with some of the changes that I'd like to see and the bugs that are currently on the PTR. So first things first, I'll talk about the Blessing of Dawn buff right here. So currently, Blizzard spent the first couple weeks fixing the modifiers for Greater Judgment and Final Reckoning, which is great. But following that, they did still not fix the Of Dusk and Dawn Blessing of Dawn talent right here. It still does not affect Hammer of Light, even though Hammer of Light does consume the buff, both at 1 and 2 stacks. I can, I'll drop a video at some point during the clip at some point during this video talking about it, or showing you guys examples from it. But it most definitely does not work. The next thing that I want to talk about briefly is the PvP talents. Currently, Ret is left with 1 good talent and a 1 situational talent on our PvP talent tree here, and everything else is either very, very niche or borderline useless. So right now, we could cut Ultimate Retribution, Hallowed Ground, Spreading the Word, and Shining Revelation, and we would be left with the talents that we would choose outside of the talents that we currently have. Spellbreaker is our only damage modification talent that's left in the PvP tree here, and it only works on direct spellcaster casts. And most spellcasters nowadays are dot oriented, aside from the turret Frostbolt Mage, which can easily just kill you right through your 10% wall. So there needs to be a huge overhaul, I believe, of the Ret PvP talent trees. Similar to how we got one in the Ret rework, almost all those special talents are gone. They're all gone. Luminescence, gone. Or Reckoning, gone. Judge the Spell, gone. There are a couple others that are gone as well. One I really liked, I forget what it was. It was just like a crit modifier, I think. But these are all gone. And it definitely sucks. Lawbringer, gone. So I'm going to go talent by talent and just talk about the worth of the talent. So Ultimate Retribution, never run. There's no worth to this talent outside of your maybe an open world PvP in a huge battle, which just does not happen in modern WoW, really. You have Hallowed Ground, which because we don't really have our targetable consecration anymore, it just does not, it's not worth using. So say you Blade of Justice someone who's very far away and the consecration drops on them, that's not cleansing you of any slow. In very niche scenarios, this could be good if the target's already on top of you and they're like disengaging away and you already had the movement speed clear. But again, it's super situational. Probably could end up seeing some use, but that's just because everything else is really bad too. Spreading the Word, horrendous. A 30% wall for 6 seconds on a 5-minute cooldown is terrible. The second part of it, Blessing of Freedom, clearing movement impairing effects on everyone else. We already have Unbound Freedom. So the likelihood of you actually cleansing 1 additional thing off of your third party member that didn't get freedom, not that great. Blessing of Spell Warding, situational. It's good into double caster cleaves. Outside of that, you're not going to play that into much else. Searing Glare, this will probably see even more play than it does now. I personally am not a huge fan of Searing Glare, but it is not a terrible talent into cleaves if you can get some range and cast it on both of them. But again, it's still, I would still consider Searing Glare a niche talent. You're not going to really glare a double caster cleave. or even a caster melee cleave, not going to work. Spellbreaker, again, this will just be our lone remaining DPS increase from PvP talents. Shining Revelation, I don't know why this is a talent here. So let me explain real quick how bubbling and preventing rogues from capping works in PvP. So say you're in Deepened Gorge, you cap the flag, you stand maybe like 30 yards away, 25 yards away, the rogue comes at you, he saps you, sprints over to the flag, starts capping, or he starts capping with a bomb. You run in. As you're seeding towards the target, the rogue tab blinds you, you trinket, he step kidneys you, you bubble, you get a dot on the rogue here. The rogue then vanish cloaks. Your bubble is going to be enough for you to get that range again on the rogue, the 25 to 30 yard range where the rogue can't cap on you. So you're then hitting the rogue from max range. The rogue no longer has smoke bomb, and you are then running Holy Reprieve for the 20-second forbearance on your bop, in which case the rogue won't really be able to cap on you. And this is such a unique BG Blitz scenario that Shining Revelation is just not needed. You play out the entire scenario, you don't need Shining Revelation. If you use Bubble to spot out a rogue or a druid or any like stealth class on a BG map, that's a big no-no. You're throwing your most important defensive cooldown away and CC break. So Shining Revelation has absolutely zero uses. Zero uses. Even in its one niche scenario, you still shouldn't run Shining Revelation. And Luminescence is now a boring passive heal. I mean, it was still kind of boring before, right? Because it was 2% damage, 2% healing for 3 people. But now it just is like up to 30% additional healing on your light bearer. Like, based on your missing health. I'm sorry, it's what is it? Up to 200%. So you're gonna like do a little bit more healing passively, not something that you're gonna modify. And this then requires you to take light bearer, which light bearer is not running 2s. It is running 3s and shuffle. It's decent, but it's boring, right? It's a talent that lets someone else have fun healing you. What if we got like an anti-Mortal Strike effect instead of Luminescence? What if anytime we used a flash heal or Word of Glory on a teammate with Luminescence, it buffed the healing that they took by like 12% or 15% or something like that, maybe stacking up a couple times? Or, you know, we got a slow in our PvP talent tree. Currently, we don't have an effective slow. We have Judgment of Justice, which is it's a 30% slow. It's really, really bad. I would even take Hand of Hindrance back at this point, and I was not a Hand of Hindrance fan. We have Illumine, which says 50% in the talent tree, but it's actually 30% in PvP combat. We don't have a reliable slow, and that's definitely something that could come into play in the PvP talent tree. What about buffing our melee-oriented abilities? Some classes, you know, they're like red. They don't have mobility, but their melee abilities absolutely truck. Recently, Frost DK, Arms Warrior, Fury Warrior, Pharaoh Druid, Enhancement Shaman are all getting massive buffs on 11.1. Currently, I cannot keep up in damage with any of those specs at the moment in the duels that I've tested. I can't tell if that's solely because of the of Dusk and Dawn buff. It could be, but from what I'm seeing, Storm Strike is hitting as hard as Final Verdict. Obliterates are hitting for about 2.5 million. Rampages are now hitting for 2 million non-crits on the PTR. I mean, they're kind of doing that on retail anyway, but like these are people that aren't fully stacking mastery. So ret damage has fallen very, very behind on the PTR. All right, I'm gonna leave you guys off with a clip of me showing the bug difference on a player between live and retail, and then also the bug showing that Blessing of Dawn just simply does not work with Hammer of Light. All right, let's look at the clip real quick. All right, we're just gonna do a normal wake. That was for 1.2 million. 1.2 million, no Final Verdict. Get ready to grab them. One stack. Click this off, click this off, click this off. 2 stacks. 1.2 million as well. Of Dusk and Dawn, buff Blessing of Dawn is not currently functioning with Hammer of Light. It is not working. Send help, please. All right, the next thing that I want to talk about briefly is the recent change to the damage shift for Empyrean Hammers and the 5% overall buff. So I like the fact that they are shifting our damage away from the passive stuff. The Empyrean Hammers falling, and then also that now they're going to be targeted on our target. That is a nice change. And the 5% damage increase is cool. I did talk to a couple people in various channels that said that it was actually an overall PvE 0.2% nerf. But it's essentially unnoticeable at that point. So it looks like a 5% damage buff with the Empyrean Hammers getting a 30% nerf. I do like the fact that they're trying to make our abilities hit harder, which is nice. One of the problems, or one of the things that I don't like from retail at the moment, is the fact that almost everything does about the same damage in PvP. Your top end final verdicts can hit harder than your generators, but for the most part, all the generators do about the same damage. And then even final verdicts that aren't like stacked up with a judgment and a final reckoning and a Dusk and Dawn stack are still doing about 350, 400k damage. It's really not that much. I think there's room in PvP to massively buff final verdict. I really do, without affecting too much. But even if they're just shifting damage back into our abilities, I'd much rather, instead of like shifting it to our generators, shift it to our spenders. Just buff final verdict. Make it feel good to press again. It might feel good to press again just in 11.1 because Empyrean Hammers are not going to be on your primary target all the time, or what I think should be all the time. But even then, I do think there's definitely room. Currently, my Frost DK, which doesn't even have the PvP modifiers on the dummies in the open world, is hitting 1.5 million non-crit Frost Strikes, which is pretty nutty. While my hardest final verdict is still about 800k with Judgment, Blessing of Dawn, Final Reckoning, and Crusade. So many modifiers for just a very meh hit. It does not feel that great. And a lot of classes are getting new animations, which is really cool. And an animation change that I'd love to see for Ret is Blade of Justice. I'd love to see Blade of Justice either get an updated animation or something that uses our actual weapon or the animation for the Paladin. Specifically, like when we're standing on top of someone and we're like raising our hand to the sky and a blade is coming out of the ground, it just looks really awkward. I've never been a huge fan of the animation, but I think it would be really cool if, maybe some people like that animation. Maybe we kept that for if we're using it from ranged, but if we're in melee range, why don't we use a melee attack with Blade of Justice? I think that would be like a cool and pretty easy to implement thing, because currently the way that Wind Strike works is it actually does that. You have a different animation when you're standing on top of someone than you do when you are farther away from them, which is pretty cool. So maybe that type of code could get rolled over. I don't know. I'm just kind of talking at this point, but yeah. All right, that's about it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and follow. Words are difficult at this point. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and I'll see everyone next time. Peace.